guys, my name is Megan and today I've got some queer books with disability representation for you. Alright, so today we're talking all about some of my favorite queer books have disability representation in them. With all of these books, please take them all with a grain of salt because representation can be different for different diseases and that kind of thing, so some of the representation might not be disabilities that you're familiar with. So yeah, let's go ahead and just dive right in. Okay, so the first one I'd like to talk about is Like Real People Do. I do have a full book review for this one that I will leave linked up in the corner, but I really love this book because it's got epilepsy representation as well as severe social anxiety representation, and it also has service animal representation in it, which is really interesting to see in a book, especially one about an athlete who is dealing with a traumatic brain injury which caused epilepsy for him. Yeah, this is following Elijah, who is a figure skater who had a car accident and caused a traumatic brain injury, epilepsy. And it's also following Alexander Price, who is the youngest NHL captain in history. And they have kind of a not so great meet cute. And then they become really fast friends and like they kind of start not dating, if you know what I mean. They're kind of in a situationship and then they just kind of see where that takes them. And it's really sweet and just, it's such a good hockey romance. This is one that I would love for everybody to read because it needs more hype. It also does a really great job with dealing with Alex's severe social anxiety. It's got mental health therapy rep for him as well as just like the epilepsy representation in this. It's so good. Next up I have Proficiency Bonus. This is a relatively recent read for me. This one is featuring ADHD representation and I feel like it's a really good representation of that. So it's following Lewis, who is a personal assistant. He has ADHD and he feels like his life is a mess, but his job is like being a personal assistant. So he is super organized for his clients, but in his real life he is just a mess and all over the place. And the other main character is Jason Liu, who is a TV star, and they meet at a convention kind of like in the backstage area for just like 20 minutes, and they're sitting there playing a game of Pokemon together, and then like a year later they kind of reconnect on Instagram and start hanging out, and they are just the sweetest romance ever, and I love them, and I love all of the queer representation that this whole series has. This book I think is my favorite out of the series. Next up I like to recommend the remaking of Corbin Weil. This book has autism representation in a romance, and it's just so interesting, especially from Corbin's point of view for the whole book, or for most of the book. You can see the way that his autism colors his interactions with people because he's kind of like the town loner, I guess. This is set in a small town, and Corbin is an artist, but also he really does not want to be around people, and like people don't know how to interact with him because his autism manifests in different ways, and most of it is making him odd to other people. But I forget the love interest name in this. He owns a cafe that Corbin frequents, and they just start hanging out together in the mornings before the cafe opens, and when the cafe does open, Corbin finds that it's a really cozy environment for him to work on his artwork and get his job things done. And it's just a really sweet romance, and it's a holiday romance too. This one is, I think this is a Hanukkah romance, so it's super sweet and one that I would definitely recommend for a holiday read. Okay, so next up I'd like to recommend a manga, and that is I Hear the Sunspot. So this has hard of hearing representation in it, or hearing loss representation in it, which is different from deaf representation, especially within this book that does make a big distinction. So this is following Kohei, he has a hearing disability, so he's hard of hearing and he's slowly losing the rest of his hearing, and he's having trouble in his college classes. He ends up hanging out by himself a lot, and then he meets Taichi, who is our other main character for this, and they become kind of friends, and then Taichi offers to help Kohei with his classes and taking notes for him, and they kind of develop this relationship. And then especially in the second book, I feel like the representation gets better because there's also sign language representation, and you can see the difference between hearing loss and hard of hearing and deaf representation for this series. It's so good. This is one that I would definitely recommend, and the art style is really nice. But yeah, this is one of my favorite manga that has a hearing loss representation in it. It's one that I would recommend checking out. And then the last book I'd like to recommend is Nothing to Lose. This one has Crohn's representation as well as a wheelchair use representation in it. This book is just really interesting. This is following a baker who has Crohn's disease and he's recovering from that, and like he's had surgery to correct some of that. And then the love interest uses a wheelchair, and I forget, they end up being neighbors. They have kind of a not great run-in when the baker's just trying to welcome this new person to the neighborhood and leave some cookies and that kind of thing. And they have a not great meet and cute, but also there's other things going on in the background that deal with both mental health issues, disability issues, and I forget. Anyway, this book is just really, really well done, especially the Crohn's disease representation in it, I feel like is really well done. So the author of this is Ian Lindsay, and they are a deaf author, and like I really recommend reading a lot of their other books because a lot of their books deal with disabilities in queer romance books, which are all fantastic. All the ones that I've read so far are fantastic. Those are some of my favorite queer books with disability representation in them. Do you guys have a favorite book that has queer disability rep in it? Let me know down below. If you guys like this video, don't forget the like button. If you haven't already but would like to, go and hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to follow me on social media for more bookish stuff, check out the links down below. Alrighty, bye guys.